Can we just start with any injury news? I know you said that you weren't expecting anyone to be back, but has everyone come out of the weekend okay?
Yeah, all good and available for selection.
Excellent stuff. Now that the cup runs are obviously over, you had one deep cup run this year and one not so deep, but fingers crossed, without any more interruptions, will just be league games until the end of the season. Is there a bit of a renewed focus in your thinking this week?
I would say no. I think one of our biggest strengths this season has been that we, massive focus on the next game. Doesn't matter if it was a championship game, a cup, our cup, or a FA Cup. Yeah.
When you look back to this point last season and assess kind of where the squad was at and how you thought they were set up to have a tilt of promotion in the second half of the campaign, how does that compare to where you see the squad now looking forward to the end of this campaign?
I think last year it took us longer to get up to speed than this year. But it's also, it's even there's a lot of the same players in the team. We still, Matt Becker played a lot of games, Vitali played a lot of games instead of Christian and Pontus. And then we know Ivan is new and Serge in a way is new for this season. Saman have helped, so it's a slightly different team, but in the same vision and the same style of play. But I think as a whole, the team and the squad and the club are a year more experienced, more clever, and I would say we are in a slightly better place with a massive focus on the next game, and tomorrow it's against Swansea.
You think the depth of the squad is improved this year, and I ask in particular because the schedule over the next sort of 6 weeks, with where those rearranged games have been put, is even by championship standards relentless.
Yeah, no doubt that. I did a calculation with Chris a couple of weeks ago. I'm pretty sure that we played the most games of everyone in Europe so far, because we have had a decent cup run, which is fantastic. So it's a massive praise to the staff, the players, and everyone involved. To answer your question, I would say yes. I'm looking forward to get some of my injured players back because that's part of it. So I would say last year we had 5 good midfielders available the most of the time. This year we had 6, but now we are down to 3, and we actually need to convert Saman into a midfielder. I knew that he could play that when we signed him, but it was like a winger midfielder. So this moment in time we actually have Amy, Shanton and Christian now, which is a lot. And now we have Josh, Vita, Matti, and then someone that can play in there. And now we got Jan back from loan, of course. So really hope that Amy and Christian soon are ready for us. I would say up front we definitely had a good second striker and Marcus. And on the sides we also have more depth, I would say, this year.
And just last question from me, can I ask you about Thomas Tuchel? I know that he's paid a lot of attention to Brentford in the past, come and visit the club, I think. I'm not sure if it was when you were there or before you joined, but is he a manager that you've had any sort of interaction with over the last few years?
No, he's one of them I actually never met. Of course I know him. I know that I think Matthew actually have a relatively close relationship with him. That's what I heard, but it was before my time. And then one of my good friends, Kasper Juhlmann, the head coach for the Danish national team, is also relatively close with him because they both coach Mainz. So back in the days. So, but no, yeah. Is there anything confirmed? I also just read the rumors about.
No, not confirmed just yet, supposedly. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, one of those where it's most likely to be.
Yeah, exactly that. Best of luck, Thomas.
Thank you.
Hi, Thomas. Can I just ask first off what you've made of the salary cap story that was obviously in the news last season, and your own personal opinion. We've seen reports that Brentford were one of the clubs who'd put together a letter stressing that they were, as a club, were against it. So, what's your personal view, and do you feel like it is one of the sort of theories that it may end up stifling competitiveness long term for clubs? Is that something you agree with?
I would say that it's really tricky. So this salary cap, just to understand it, I don't know, is it confirmed for League 1 and League 2, or they just talking about it's confirmed for League 1 League 2, okay. And we're talking about the Championship, but it's a really tricky one, because what we do with the Premier League teams that are getting relegated, or the teams that are getting promoted, or it's if they can solve that solution, so it's very, very fair and even, maybe that's a good thing to do. I don't know. I'm in doubt. One thing is for sure: there's too many clubs who haven't. How can you say? I don't know if it's because of strategy or they just financially are a mess. But there's too many clubs who definitely overspending for too many years, and of course you can't do that. You normally can't do that in the real world. So I don't understand how you can do it in the football world, because then you get bankrupt. So definitely we need to do something about it. I don't know if the financial fair play actually is. I think that's a very fair way of doing it. So it just definitely needs to be something that's going across the country. That's the tricky thing.
Secondly, have you heard of any indication from West Ham in terms of potentially bringing forward the deal to sign side permanently? We've sort of heard from West Ham that that's something they're exploring. So from your point of view, have you heard anything?
No, I haven't heard anything. I think it's one of these that Phil and Ras take care of that, and then I get a heads up.
And finally, obviously it's quite a medical sensitive issue, but can I just ask you about the training plan for when a player returns from a positive coronavirus test, and the possible challenges in terms of one player might have more severe symptoms than another? And from your experience dating back to, I guess, even maybe June, how have you found that in terms of reintegrating them into the group?
I think we've been quite fortunate that none of the players that had a positive test had symptoms or were particularly ill, so they just straight back in, train well, no problem. But of course we're aware of that they can hit harder for some persons, and for that we have a protocol with our medical staff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey Thomas,
Hi,
it's just about Christian Norgard. Have you been worried? Because obviously he's been out quite a long time now, and he's kind of seems to be on the verge of coming back, and then it's sort of another setback. I mean, any kind of indication as to kind of when you'll be able to call on him to play?
I'm positive. I spoke to him again today. He looked fit and strong, and he was out there training. Still not with the group, but with our head of performance. So ball involved, twisting, turning, and sprinting. So that looked good. And he was also involved in the coaching meeting about Swansea. So and there was a smile on his face. So he's in a good place. So, but I would say I really look forward for him to join the team. And we hope that he soon will help us. But the positive side, of course, is that others have stepped in and done very well.
I guess he's a player, when you do it, it's like a new signing almost to bring him back into the side when he's fitting well.
I 100% agree. It will be a new signing. They'll just bring extra energy to the group and positivity. So we look forward to welcoming him back soon, hopefully.
Okay, and just looking at Swansea, obviously you had 2 huge games against them last year in the playoffs, and I think the game early in the season was a 1-1 draw. So how do you see tomorrow's game? What are you expecting? Obviously another tough match, but what have you made of Swansea so far?
I think Swansea have done very well this season. I think they've done very well last season. Swansea is a big club. They were in the Premier League 3 years ago. I think especially after they changed to their new system, they did that before, or how can I say, after the first Corona break, to 3-5-2 system, different in the midfield. Sometimes a 6-2-8, sometimes 2 sitters and then a 10. They are very well drilled and coached by Steve Cooper and his coaching staff. They know exactly what they want offensively and defensively. I think they have that extra edge when you always have wing backs that are wider. So how do you close them down, and they produce a lot of crosses. You know, they have Ayew and Lowe up front that get on the end of those crosses. But most impressively, I would say, is their defensive record. They by far is the team that conceded the least goals, and we know all, if you want to break up or break down or break through a back five and with 3 midfielders in front, it's very, very difficult. So they have that defensive discipline and awareness and 100% clear in what they want to do. So it's going to be a very tough game, but we're looking forward to it. It's 2 teams that want to dominate and want to take control of the game. So all of us just looking forward to a top match to play against a very strong opponent. But of course we believe in ourselves as well.
Okay, and just finally, you've had some real big cup games this year against Premier League sides. But what have you learned about you yourself as a coach and from your team as well, facing the Leicesters, the Tottenhams, and these types of things?
I would say that of course we faced, what is it, 6 teams now? I can't remember, 6 I think. And especially 4 of the teams, I thought, okay, we can compete at this level. There's nothing to be shy of, or that we can't. So that was good for the confidence. Then I would say, especially as against some of the top teams, Tottenham, Leicester, also Southampton. Actually, I would say there was a bit tactical and bits and pieces we took with us. And of course, when some of these world-class players, it's just a joy to watch a Madison close. That of course we knew how he was and what he can do, or Harry Kane and Son, or some of these players. I would say Tielemans as well, top players.
Great stuff. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
Hi Thomas, you mentioned there about Swansea and the good rich vein of form they're in. I suppose when you look at it, 7 unbeaten, 6 wins and 1 draw, and then they'll go and add Conor Horan to their squad as well. Did you look on that in terms of envious, in terms of another title contender really adding a good player in Conor Horan?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think Swansea had a really good team and a really good squad, and now they added Hurricane and I think Jordan Morris, winger striker from MLS Seattle, a very good player as well. So they definitely, you can see that they mean it, and they want really to go for that big promotion push, which they should, as a big club they are. But we back ourselves, we trust ourselves, and I'm pretty sure that they also, of course, look at us and think we have some strength, but we know we have a very, very, very difficult task ahead of us. Looking forward to play.
And I suppose, Thomas, in terms of training, in terms of defensive set pieces, does that sort of change the training session this week? Obviously, we all know Horan's ability in terms of dead ball set pieces. Is that something that you probably have to be extra aware of this time, thanks Swansea around?
I would say that already last time, I think Swansea is a good set piece team, and when we analyze them, they have many variations. They can go short, they can go long, they can have combinations. So wide free kicks, corners. So we are very aware of that aspect, and of course, as you said, Conor Horan is a top set piece taker.
And I suppose, Thomas, 24th of October, the last time you were beaten in the league, one of the longest sort of runs unbeaten in the championship since you lost to Stoke away. But in terms of Ivan Toney, when you see him top of the championship scoring records with 16 goals, also third in the championship when it comes to assists, 5 assists, and just Brian Ogomo, your other player, 6 assists. So when you look at those sort of stats in terms of return up front, definitely you are one of the top contenders in terms of your attacking strengths. You rank third with 37 goals so far in the championship.
Yeah, I think I think I said earlier today that I think we were up and running quicker this season in overall performances, but the offensive part of it, I think, in that more fluidity in our game and the way we want to play, that came, in the beginning of December. And I agree with you, Ivan Tony, a massive part of that, Brian Mbeumo, massive part of that. But I think also now Sergio Canos, is really improving. So for the front three, and then we know that it's a team game, but especially Justa Silva and Matthias Jensen, the way they get the game ticking, or can penetrate the game on their own or with passes, makes us a good threat.
And I suppose Thomas, we're heading into crazy week. I suppose the last start of the week, the January transfer window is probably closing, and I suppose for Brentford fans, last window you saw obviously players depart the club, but this time around you are linked with one or two players, Scott Tyne from Swindon Town, Siriki De Bailey from Petersborough, and then obviously two players that are linked away from the club, Ali Derfujuli to Galatasaray and Frederick Hammer to Acropolis. Any sort of developments on those sort of ends?
No. On the incomings, no. We are aware we are in the market. The two others could potentially happen, so yeah, that's it.
Okay. Thomas, best of luck against Swansea.
Thank you.
Hi Thomas, how are you?
I'm fine. Hi Nathan.
Hi. Yeah, so obviously you've got a couple of big players back in the side for this game against Swansea. Does that give the squad an overall sort of morale boost?
Yeah, I think in overall the squad is good and in a good place and confident. But that's what we talk about in the way where we talk about attitude, where you're confident but humble. We know there's a massive task ahead of us, and we need to be on our absolute best to get 3 points out of the game. But of course, that's our aim. That's what we're going for.
And I'm not sure if you're aware, but you've got 7 more points than you did at this stage last season, and 19 more points than you did the season before that. What do you put that down to?
I would say stability and that working progress in terms of every single day. My focus, the staff focus, the players' focus is to, push, working on details that hopefully over time will add up, and then we can progress. So it's a good development, but it's football are crazy. We're never satisfied. There's always something we want to improve, or something we want to do a little bit better. Always something. But we are in a fine place, but we want to be in an even better place.
And obviously you can work on those details week in, week out in training, but how important is it to develop that habit of not only winning but not losing important games?
Yeah, of course, that's a big thing. I think that's one of the bits that we, for whatever reason, I know we got a 9-game unbeaten run in the end, and we won 9 games, which is remarkable, of course, of last season. But last season we didn't have that long run of unbeaten games through the season like we have now. So it's definitely something where the team been a little bit more clever in certain situations, more difficult to beat, and that's of course massive for us.
And obviously your defensive record has been fantastic, but how nice is it to see defenders chipping in with goals like in the game against Leicester?
Very important. For me, set pieces are big, and they need to add a few, so we take the burden off the front three sometimes. But the defenders are massive, that they can add in and chip in with goals once in a while.
That's all from me. Thanks, Thomas.
You're welcome.
Good luck for Swansea.
Thank you.
Hi Thomas, hope you're well.
All well, thank you. Hi James.
Do you see any similarities between yourself and Steve Cooper? You obviously both manage the respective youth teams for your nations and have a reputation, for playing attractive football.
I think we definitely had a similar pathway in terms of going through youth football first in academies, and then than being managing or coaching our under 17 national team, which is a fantastic year group to coach because they are so hungry, eager, open-minded in general. So definitely, and we also both been privileged that some owners or sports directors or leaders in clubs could see that we were able to step into to the senior football.
And then looking back on that playoff semi-final in July, how do you think the two squads compare to then to now?
I think it's two even squads that are facing each other, and maybe even more even compared to last year, where we look at the 4 games, we maybe came out with the upper hand in that perspective. But looking back at the last game, which is the most important thing to look at with a new squad, I think it's more than even. I think Swansea are really good, and it's a game where we go into and I think, okay, this is completely 50-50 who will win this game. But I'm looking forward to it. I have the biggest respect for Steve Cooper and his coaching staff, and Steve is one of the coaches I'm speaking to once in a while. So I wish him all the best, not tomorrow night, but after that, going forward. So I'm just looking forward to a top football match.
And then finally, how hard is it to manage the extra games in hand that you have to play as a result of the coronavirus absence?
To be fair, I don't think it makes a difference because we played every Saturday, midweek Saturday week since we started the season. And then we had 1 week off because of the closing down of the training ground. So we're used to it. We have an okay strategy for it. So hopefully we can continue that.
Thank you, Thomas.
You're welcome.
Hi Thomas, we mentioned Swansea's defensive strength, and we've also mentioned Ivan Toney, who hasn't scored in 4 league games, and those two things combined would seem to be the perfect opportunity for Ivan to show that little bit of magic, that little bit of amazing creativity that we know he's capable of.
Yeah, I agree with you. That would be perfect, Stuart, if you pick the game tomorrow to get a 1 or 2 goals into the back of the net. But I also agree with you with that creativity, because it's quite remarkable. You also got, 5 assists, something like that, and some of them, last assist for Simon Goddard against Luton, remarkable. So he really got that eye for his teammate as well. So of course Ivan need to play a top game tomorrow, but it's not only about Ivan. If all 11 play a top games, I'm pretty sure we'll be in a good place, and they will build on each other's performance. But of course he's a key player for us.
And you said after the game on Sunday against Leicester that some games you win and some games you learn from. So having learned from it and having taken your textbooks and your exercise books home and done a bit of learning, what do you think you've taken away, even though it'll be probably a significantly different squad tomorrow? What have you taken away from that Leicester game that you think might help you both tomorrow and going forward?
I think we played Leicester, we played a similar style to them in 2 slightly different formations. But what I really like about Leicester is that they want to build up from behind, they want to dominate on the ball and all that, and also press forward and a little bit more like the modern game and take initiative. But what they, the edge was that they are looking a little bit more behind earlier than I think we do. Especially Tielemans, for example, 2 times. I think Matti does a little bit the same, but it's just 2 examples where he just on the first touch, on the second touch, just behind, and they're just ready to run behind, and that's a bit where you see in the best teams they can play short passing and dominate on a lot of passing team, but they can also go behind them and hurt them and play quicker, which is you can't these days you can't only play one type of football. You need to adapt and be more flexible.